A tale as old as time. The Hornets move on to the second round once again. Hello, everybody. Terry Bennett here on the Muenster Hornet Football Show as the Hornets dispatch of Cross Plains 77-6 in the first round of the playoffs to move on to take on a familiar foe on the 2A scene, the Wellington Skyrockets. 9-2. This game tonight, Burke Burnett Bulldog Stadium. As you know, this isn't the same Skyrocket team, that's been to state and such, but this is a young, very talented Skyrocket team. I think Munster's going to win tonight and eventually win going away, but I think this game's going to be very close early. The Skyrockets, as coach says, has some speed. And again, they're going to be good over the next few. I mean, they're always good, but I think, as Dave Campbell said, they're one of the programs like Munster. They don't rebuild, they just reload. And that's what they've done this year. It is an odd stat that their two losses against two really good teams have both been shutouts. That's weird to see them just dominate point-wise against everybody else, and then in the two losses, not even be able to score a point. All right, we're going to take a break, and when we come back, it's the head coach of the Muenster Hornets, Coach Brady Carney, right here on the Muenster Hornet Football Show. Of course, if you know, each and every week, Grant Goodwin and I talk high school football. We do 4A, 3A, and, of course, 2A. Across the state of Texas, it's the playoffs, so we break down every playoff game with picks. We have a lot of fun with Playoff Tree. We also have Coach X, who's a real coach, who writes in with his amusing diatribes and picks and such. So check us out, the video version, youtube.com/@L4 Media Company. We're also doing audio only. It's the same show. I just pull the audio and put it up in podcast on all podcast platforms. Just type in sideline, the number 2 sideline, or on our podcast platform page, S2S grantandterry.com. Now, let's go back to the head coach of the Muenster Hornets. Terry Bennett back here on the Muenster Football Show. Now joined by the head coach of the Hornets, Coach Brady Carney. And, Coach, congratulations. You get your first playoff win of the year. You beat Cross Plains. Not much to talk about that game, but I do want to talk about, your quarterback play was literally perfect. I think both of your quarterbacks, went 11 for 11 for 4 touchdowns.
Yeah, I can't. I think it was something like that. Yeah, Cason played the first half. I think he was 10 for 10, maybe, and then we let some other guys get some reps in there. So we didn't throw it just a ton whenever those other guys were in there. You don't. As a coach, it's one of those things that just I don't know. I don't agree with throwing the football when you're up 60-0. So we just try to keep the run game going and try to get out of there as quick as we can. But yeah, man, they had a good night and. Thought everybody did. All 3 phases I thought played really well. So we'll get out of there healthy and move on to this week. But yeah, it's always good to get that first one out of the way. Can't win a state championship if you don't win the first one, right? So yeah, got that one done and moved past that one.
Do you have a number in your head when you're thinking about pulling guys in a game like this? And to be fair, you're in a lot of these games like this most years. Do you have a certain number in your head, or is it just a night by night thing?
Usually 40. If it's 40 something, like Collinsville, I think was, I don't know, maybe 42-7 at one point, and that's when we started getting other guys in there. So I think 40 is kind of the magic number, and of course them being under 14, of course, I'm not going to go pulling kids when it's 42-21 in the third quarter.
Yeah.
So it just depends on the number. Probably 35, up 35, 42, something like that. We'll start giving the kids some time off and. And honestly, up 28, 21, some kids aren't going to see as many touches as they would if it's a tie ball game, So we try to play that as safe as possible, keep the amount of physical hits and abuse and wear and tear down as much as we can, But moving forward, it probably ain't going to be like that now. It's going to have to be whatever we can throw out there to win. So that's how we're looking at it.
Yeah, speaking of, let's talk about it. Your second round opponent, a blue blood of 2A football, the Wellington Skyrockets. Great team on the year, 9-2. But it's been a little weird. Offensively, they've been great, but then their 2 losses have been shutouts. So I guess, hey, if you shut them out, you're probably going to win.
Yeah, no, that's the key, right? Just making them hold a 0 up there, and we should be okay. But no, man, they're watching them on film, the tradition and expectations. You've been around football long enough to know that carries a lot of programs with their effort. And Wellington's the same way. The expectations in Wellington are to be playing football in December, just like they are in Munster. So Coach Profit does a good job. They're well coached, and the thing that appears to stand out on film is their effort and then their team speed. Looks like they got some speed in the skill positions and play fast, play physical, and do all the things that good programs do.
Yeah, they've got a great one in Noah Cantu on both sides of the ball, running back and linebacker. When you're playing, and I know you play a lot of teams that have a guy that plays on both sides of the ball, and we've talked a little bit about this before, but when you're playing a guy like that, do you try to focus on him more on defense to wear him down so when he's on offense, he might not be at 100%?
Yeah, that was one of the things that we played Collinsville. The Davidson kid was playing quarterback. Garrett played him. Coach Patterson played him at safety, and man, he made a ton of tackles back there. Really good football player. But the good thing was he was having to make tackles because we were getting to the second level, and I felt like that kind of took a toll on him later in the game because he was wore down a little bit. And it's the same thing you're talking about with the Cantu kid. He's a go-to guy on offense, and then he makes a lot of plays on defense. But man, his energy and his effort are outstanding. I'm not for sure he's the kind of kid that gets tired. You've seen those kind of dudes, man. They can play 160 snaps like they play the first snap. 160 is just like one. Their effort's just outstanding, and that's the way he appears to be on film too.
Well, you brought up talking about their expectations and Munster's expectations and talking about him. You could also be talking about all your guys. And what to me makes a great program outside of coaching and talent is these guys just absolutely love to play football. They don't want to come off the field.
No, they don't. And we are fortunate to have some pretty good depth on our team. So we're able to give some kids some reps. But you take, guys like Garrett, Rhett Walterscheid, Payson Wiley, they're our guards who pull a ton. Then they flip over to the defensive side and play our inside linebacker position. Maverick Byer, he's usually always playing our one of our linebackers / safeties, and then he's always a wide receiver. So he doesn't get many breaks, just like Garrett or just like Rhett and Payson. But just about everybody else out there, we can get reps for, or take some breaks for and get them a little bit of rest. So our depth is good for a 2A team, and we try to take advantage of that as much as possible by getting those guys reps and keeping them fresh for the second half and fourth quarter. I think it's paid off for us a few times this year. You look at the Collinsville game and the Lindsay game and Windthorst game, and our second halves are really well versus those guys, and I think that goes back to our depth.
You and I talked a little bit last year, right before the state championship, about Kaysen and what it meant, to win state with him as your quarterback. And I ask you, with him as a senior, have you been kind of doing the mental check marks of this is the last first round game with him? This is that kind of stuff?
Oh yeah, no, it's one of those things. Now you're down to, hey, you got possibly 3 practices left and a game, because nothing's guaranteed. But yeah, man, just enjoying the ride, and I think his commitment to football and what he wants to do is something that helps me, feel better about it. He doesn't let times go by where he's not putting in work, watching film, up here throwing on his own, whatever, just to be better and to be the best he can be. So that makes it easier on me because I know he is doing what it takes to win. And it's the same way with all his teammates that I've watched growing up, Nolan Peel, Garrett Hess, Rhett Walterscheid, all those guys that have been here with him and throughout the whole thing is pretty special. So I'm trying to enjoy all those moments as much as I can. But at the same time, we're trying to win another state championship, so we got to coach them up, And some days are harder than others. There's still some mean words that may be said here and there, but I love those guys to death, and just trying to enjoy every moment of it.
The one thing I've been impressed with your son is you and I'll talk through text about other games and stuff. And so many times you will actually say, yeah, me and Casey were talking about that game. There's a lot of kids who are great football players who, if you asked them about any other team, they would have no clue what you're talking about. But he seems that he's dialed in and has the knowledge of as a fan as well, of talking other football teams.
Yeah, we do. We'll sit down at night sometimes when he's around. Don't get me wrong, he's still a teenager, so he's still in his room doing his thing. But yeah, we do talk about opponents quite a bit, and he is knowledgeable of it. I honestly, the older I get, I think I'm worse at watching film as I get older. I feel like everybody's faster than us, everybody's more physical than us, But he seems to be a little bit more realistic about it when he watches film, and I trust his opinion. He's been right a lot this year, and But yeah, man, he's definitely got some knowledge of the game, and being around it his whole life, that's kind of expected. But no, he enjoys it tremendously.
As always, if you have any questions, thoughts, or comments, email the show, Terry at S2SSport.com. We thank Coach Carney for joining, especially on game day. Internet went out in the studio yesterday because of the weather. I like to, during the playoffs, try not to do these on game days just to help out the coaches. It's a little different in the regular season, especially when they're at home, because they're not having to have so many moving parts. Speaking of, if Muenster wins next week, we'll, of course, have a show. We'll record it on Tuesday, and I'll post it Tuesday afternoon since Thanksgiving and all that. And again, as I said in the ad, check out our 2A show, Sideline to Sideline. We have a lot of fun talking 2A football. Of course, Muenster is a big part of that talk. Also, we do a 3A and 4A show as well. Be safe going to the game. If you're going tonight, enjoy the football. Next week, it's Turkey Week football, my favorite week of the football season. Let's be here next week talking it right here on the Muenster Hornet Football Show.